I believe we are live. My name's Asif.Nazerally, and this is Nasty TV. For those of you who ever watched any of the videos from before, I used to call it Nighttime Nasty, but I think it was time for a rebranding because, well, I want to be able to shoot these at any time of the day. So, yes, right now is nighttime when I am shooting this, but just for general flexibility, we've been rebranded as the Nighttime Nasty. So, welcome. This is where you come and get a little nasty. This is where I just explain stuff that, well, I don't think is being explained anywhere else. I don't know. Maybe a bunch of stuff that I say is being explained elsewhere, but it's just so you have a centralized point to at least get your interest piqued enough to study this stuff for yourself. And so, in terms of me myself, I've been working with a company for the last 2 years after it's called Techno Tutor. I've been working with this company called Techno Tutor for the last 2 years ish, a little bit less than 2 years. And before that, uh, I had the company's product, which is called Techno Tutor, and I used it for a year and a half, about a year or something like that, consistently. And it was after I used it on myself for a while and got all the support that comes with the product. So when somebody gets Techno Tutor, they get support with it for life. And they get introduced to specific groups to allow that person to connect with different people who are applying themselves within the process of real change. And I'll talk about why I say real change in a moment. Um, and so the cool part is, generally speaking, in every other what is it called, sales job or company that I've ever been with, I never use the product for myself. I usually, you join the company, and then after you join the company, you get on board with the product and you say what you need to say. This was the complete reverse. So I had used it for myself for over a year before being like, holy crap, I've never experienced anything like this before. This is probably the most remarkable technology I've ever experienced in my life. And at that time, I experienced 1/10 of the results I'm experiencing now. So, so that's the funny part of it. So my point is, I had it in reverse. I got to really spend a lot of time asking all the questions, spending a lot of time talking with the co-founders, and throwing every curveball, every doubt, objection, whatever you want to call it, to see how clear they were, how certain they were. And lo and behold, every single time I did so, it was an opportunity for them to explain more to me what TechnoTutor actually is and where TechnoTutor as a company is going. And so um, it is really cool because as I took the information they would share with me and I applied it in my life, whether it just be seeing things from a different perspective or literally applying, hey, this is what is necessary to have good relationships, or be effective within your communication, or be stable through and work through your reactions, or to make a lot of money. I'd always get big ass results, which is really cool. But um, it's like I'm nowhere where I want to be, but I can be. I'm honest enough with myself where I know that I've come a far way compared to where I would have been had I not stepped out of line, if that makes sense. So, for those of you who don't know me, I was propped up by the school system as the guy, where I had MVPs for the athletic stuff, and I also had like the high academic achievements and getting all these like scholarships and bursaries out of high school and stuff like that. And me and my partner at the time, coming out of high school, we were the valedictorians of our high school, which is kind of class elected, and as well as like with the teacher. I don't even know how they choose it, but it's like the teachers and the students and everything. I don't really know, but it was a small high school, so it wasn't a big high school, right? But I was propped up by the school system and considered as like the one, if you will. And the reason I say that is because Uh, it's like from there, I got all the scholarship money to go to university as well. And it was about a year and a half into university that I was like, well, it was actually way before a year and a half of university. Before I went to university, I was making money. I had my brother had this information from a club called the Global Information Network, and he used it to start making money. So he didn't have to go to college, and he was making more money than anybody around me. He was making more money than my parents, making more money than the school teachers. It was crazy. And I was just a kid, right? I'm 16. I'm like, okay, I can work. Uh, you know, I'm going to go out there and work with my brother. And luckily I had him. If it wasn't for him, none of this would have worked. I don't recommend anybody drop out of university unless you have a crazy support network and support system. University, college, any post-secondary, because you are choosing a way harder life. Okay. For those of you who do have the audacity, and for those of you who have already built something, have already proven to yourself, or have a great support network outside of that, or you have the willingness to reach out to me and work with us, then yeah, sure, drop out, or at least come up with a plan for it. But the point of consideration was I knew because I got myself up to making, just making money outside of school, making more than any of my teachers and parents as well, because my brother supported me to do that. Um, I was like, what the hell am I going to go to university for? Right. And so I went to university anyways, because young guy, I want to go experience things, right? I want to go see the girls and the parties and the sports and all that stuff, right? So I ended up getting on the rugby team there. Um, that was a lot of fun. I had my crew there and all that stuff. I was doing really well in university. It's pretty easy for me. It wasn't that stressful. Um, but I knew that I wasn't going to finish my degree. Now, for those of you who don't know my background, I was born in Canada, but my parents, my two parents, my beautiful parents, they're from Guyana. So if you don't know Guyana, it's a Caribbean country. So it's above Brazil, but they talk in a kind of Caribbean slang. So like, hey, what Guyana by? What Guyana there? Watch your ass there, buddy. It's like they have like a Caribbean slang. It's fun. Uh, and I love doing it. Um, but they're all about education, as are most, I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, right? Uh, Education, the reason they're so focused on that is because, well, they don't want you to live the hard life that they lived. They didn't want me to have a hard life because they know how it is without education. You got to work as a cashier, you got to work as a salesperson, even if you're not a good salesperson, right? You got to do all these things that maybe you don't want to do. Versus if you go down the education route, the thinking is, okay, life will be easy. All you have to do is sit at a desk. You don't have to break your back and cripple your hands. Maybe you get carpal tunnel, right? But you don't have to break your back in order to make money, right? So that's the starting point of parents who want their kids to go to school, which is totally reasonable, especially now, because nobody's going to be able to make any money in the future outside of school or very, very specific businesses, which is why Technitutor is being built the way it is. Um, so the point is, it took me a year and a half to grow the balls necessary to be like, fuck this. Like, I'm not going to go through 4 years of schooling, spending all that money in 4 years of my life to end up making, 50, 60K, like to make up, a quarter of what I could be making, where I was traveling all throughout Ontario with a great group of guys having fun, like, all this stuff and a lot of freedom and just like, imagine just being with your boys all the time. Right. And with your brother too. It was really cool because my brother showed me, he was my man. My brother was like my boss, and it was amazing. Right. We had a cool relationship. Not to say that it was like good per se, but at least within the business context, it was nicely superficial. We didn't, focus on money. It was cool. It was really cool. So my brother really supported me with that. Um, so why would I want to trade that up to make a quarter of the money after 4 years, right? Um, and being trapped in a 9 to 5 office or something like that, right? Who would have known it'd turn out I could work from home? That's great. But I wouldn't like that because I don't get to see anybody, all this stuff. But the point is, After a year and a half, I was like, all right, I'm outie. Moved to Toronto. Um, I figured me and my brother moved to Toronto for a sales job. We met this guy. We are going to be the basically area managers of, like, basically what we were doing before, except we don't just have to be salespeople. We can manage the area from Mississauga and Toronto or Scarborough or whatever the case may be. And after like a day or two of doing the exact same thing that we were doing before, because we had freedom to choose, because we felt that we had opportunity. That's what I think the deciding factors were. We both, after I think one day of doing it, we both quit. And I remember, if you ask Kian, he tells the story so funny, but it's like hey, I got all these little comments. Hey, Bev. Hey, Khalid. Good to see you, man. So my brother, he we were driving this mom van, right? This Honda Odyssey. And we pull up to a UPS, I think it was a UPS store, to print out contracts so that we could go out and work, and it would be contracts that kind of commit us to working for the next couple of months. So you spend money on contracts, so you want to, it's a little bit of a commitment, right? And so I remember just being depressed. I'm like, holy shit, my brother's whole life, he left university, he bought a house at 19, made over $100,000 at 19 and bought a house, and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is his life. There's no way I can tell him I can't do this. But I was so fucked up inside. I was getting depressed, right? I'm driving the Honda Odyssey and I'm like this. I'm like, Dad. I'm like, all right, man, let me know when you're back. So he leaves the car and I'm expecting him to come back with a stack of contracts. But as you can tell, he didn't. And he came back in the car and I was like confused. I was like, what were the contracts? Right? And I was just kind of like this. I'm like, what happened? He's like, asked if I don't want to do this anymore. And the way he describes the way, and I remember it too, but the way he describes it is so funny. He's like, it's like he saw the life go back into me. I was like a dead person. The life came back into me. I went from here to like, that's what I did. That was like exactly what I did. That was awesome. Man, I'm a really good actor. That comes up in the story a little bit later. But I open up and I'm like, holy fuck. I felt like my whole, like the weight of the world was lifted out of my body and off my chest and off my shoulders. And it was so funny because so then we went to a Tim Hortons. For those of you who don't know what a Tim Hortons is, it's like the poor man's Starbucks, right? It's like the Canadian, like Dunkin' Donuts, the Canadian little coffee shop, nice stuff. So we plopped down and I'm all like energetic. For the last 2 days, I've been fucking depressed. And just from that one moment, that decision, it's like life opened up. I was in a new city, a city like 10 times bigger than the city that I was living in. I was living in Ottawa. Toronto was probably 5 hours away. We'd moved there. So no more parents. Woo. No, we just had the creative freedom to figure out what the fuck we want to do with our life. And I had just left university. I'd gotten out of my relationship. So many things have changed. And me and my brother were sitting down. We're drawing on napkins. I remember we're drawing on napkins and trying to figure out, what's next. My brother's getting me to do these basic exercises. Draw a little stick figure of yourself, and that stick figure of yourself, put it like a straight face, right? And write, where are you at now in health and finances and relationships and traveling, all that stuff. And then make a stick figure of yourself and you're smiling, and write all the stuff that you want in those regards. And so from there, basically what I said to myself was, if I was making, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 figures, a month, just doing my thing. And that was good. Right. I didn't really process that at the time, that people don't really typically make that kind of money. And I was easily going to be hitting like higher 7 figures to break 200,000 a year and things like that. But I was like, oh damn, like that's crazy. I thought I was supposed to live for money, but it's like, that's not what drives me, I guess. even though I saw it drive my brother my whole life, and he was also making that decision. He's like, shit, I don't want to do this specific thing right now anymore because it's draining the life out of him. So I was like, if money doesn't drive me, what does? Well, I remember having the thought, well, everybody says you got to do something you're passionate about. Okay, so if it's not money, then it's the passion. All right. Bev says they have Tim Hortons here in Minnesota. Damn. I didn't know that. That was good to know. So the point is, I started searching. So at that time, I had already been introduced to gin. But right when we made that decision, a gin event was coming up. And it was in Cancun, Mexico. And we went there, and that was the nicest resort I've ever been at in my life. It was so expensive. That's what I remember. It was so expensive. It was the nicest resort I've been at in my life. It's called the Moon Palace. It was 3 resorts in one resort, and the one that we were staying at is the Moon Palace. And oh my God, I remember going off. It was like heaven on earth, that place. It was amazing. I remember at one point they had like a crepe station, and I just got in a cookie because there's stations everywhere, right? You're just walking through the lobby. I had a cookie I was eating. I said, hey, can you put can you make a crepe, but put everything in it, like Nutella and syrup and coconut shavings and nuts and all this stuff. And then when I got it, I had put the cookie in it and I wrapped up the crepe, and goddamn was that delicious. But the point is, it's like I was an open book, and that's where I met Cameron and Avery, which are the co-founders of Tech and Tutor. So Kian had already met Avery, who's one of the co-founders of Tech and Tutor, at a previous Gen event, and he used his conversations with Avery because he was he built Fortune 500 companies in the past, and Avery shared that passion of building sales teams, like my brother. And so he exchanged some information he shared some information with how the world actually works and what it takes to be successful in business. And Ken applied that, and that's how he hit that over $100,000 at 19, coming from just to give some context, my brother was like that straight C student that all the teachers were like, oh, that kid's a loser kind of thing, got suspended one time, all that stuff. So it was like, when I was young, I didn't care. People were like, what's your brother doing now? I'm like, he's making more money than you. It was crazy. They're like, what, kid? Like, no way. I'm like, yeah, in sales. He's like, no, that kid can't talk to anybody. He changed. It was really cool. And I used the gin information, your wish is your command, to get up to making $10,000 a month. And I couldn't, it was cool because that was my potential, right? So anyways, I started searching for my passion. I'm trying everything. I was like, well, I like kids, right? So I started tutoring, and I was like, I don't see myself doing this forever. I was looking for the thing that I want to do. Right? I taught myself to play ukulele when I turned 16, right? So I started playing ukulele. I was like, kids, ukulele. I started working for this company called Ukulele Kids. You literally teach ukulele in school. So that was really cute. I'm singing SpongeBob and these, kindergarten to grade 3. Crazy. Kindergarten to grade 3. I'm teaching them ukulele. It was a lot of fun, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. I had gotten to know this guy named Joe Taylor. The guy straight up had a ponytail. He was the music guy. And we had gotten in contact because he wanted to make a music magazine called Blast Toronto. I wonder if that thing still exists. That'd be crazy. blastto.com. I don't know. Blast Toronto music magazine. I'll show you guys if it's still around. I don't think so. There you go. Should I show this? I'm going to show it. So this right here, shout out to my boy, Joe Taylor. You're part of the story now, brother. Look, this website here, we had met up. I don't know if he keeps this up. Archives, November 16, 2020. That's pretty cool because this is all happening back in 2016, right? So he's going strong. We had met up, and he gathered like a little team, and this guy is like the iconic freaking this is so cool. This is part of my story. It's still around. It's really awesome. He was like the dude, like the gnarly, like the the ponytail, silver white hair ponytail, like rocker dude. Like he's the perfect trope of that. It was amazing. And I remember, being part of this music magazine, right? And we got like free tickets to like my first ever jazz concert. It blew my mind. I cried during it because it was this guy's Jamie Oliver's like going out. Not Jamie Oliver. Oliver Jones. Sorry, my bad. Not Jamie Oliver. Oliver Jones. It was his last concert, and it was so beautiful. It was amazing, right? So we got like free tickets because we were press. I was like, whoa, like I was doing all this stuff, right? And then I found my passion. It was acting because everybody was telling me to be an actor, and a lot of events happened that I was like, oh my God, like this is a sign. Like I went to Vancouver and I ended up talking to this guy and he was like a famous actor and people come to me, hi, what's your name? Oh, Mr. Asif.Nazerally. How do you know Mr. Um, I don't want to say his name. I don't know. Anyways, I won't say his name, but anyways, he was like, we were talking one on one. He gave me some advice. He said, read this book, all this stuff. I was like, okay. I was considering being an actor for some time. And this is after I did this, I did the tutoring, I did that, I massaged a dude. Like I did everything, dude. It was crazy. But when I found acting, there was a point in me because I was talking to Cameron and Avery, they were developing this spark inside of me that wanted to make a difference in the world. I was just too wrapped up in my own mind that I was like, I don't want to be part of what you guys are doing. I want to do my own thing. I want to be the face. I want to be the guy. Acting was the perfect thing for that. I mean, being a third child, I was used to getting all the attention, and that was like my pattern, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but it just depends what kind of relationship you have with attention. And I didn't have a nice one. I don't think so. Because, well, anyways, the proof of it was the driving force subconsciously, I wasn't aware of, is it's like I wanted the attention. I did that for 2 years. I met my childhood heroes. I remember when I was younger, me and my family on Monday nights, we would gather up on the couch to all watch the show called 24 with Jack Bauer. Anybody know the name of the show? Know that show 24? If you do, feel free. Drop a little something in the comments. But the point is, I got to meet the guy who played Jack Bauer, the badass CIA agent, like, or whatever it was CIA. I don't remember CIA. I don't remember. But anyways, the guy Kiefer Sutherland, he was making the show called Designated Survivor, which you'll be able to see me on. I'm not going to say where, but um, he's a super nice guy. And from there, I met like a bunch of people. Anna Kendrick, she's so small in person, right? Like Bryan Cranston. I got to work on the red carpet. I did all kinds of stuff. But one day, after a culmination of really upping my processing ability and developing my self honesty, it's an interesting uh, part in the story, but it was really just looking at everything that was going on in the world. And I remember going through TechnoTutor and I was processing using TechnoTutor this point of purpose. And I was doing this process called self-forgiveness to let go of the bullshit that I kind of accepted around what purpose was and what life was, and honestly, not having a purpose for myself. I was saying I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to not realize that I would never get in a car without having a purpose of being in the car and where to go, even if the purpose was just to go for a drive. Yet I've gotten into this body and I've lived it was 20, 21 years with no purpose. And I was just taking apart that point and I realized, oh shit, I got to figure out a purpose. So I remember for the next hour, I was living in Toronto, and it was like, oh, I need to be part of what TechnoTutor is doing because I've used it to excel within my acting career. People said, "Oh, you're supposed to, do student work for maybe a year or so and build up your resume, and then you'll get paid for the first time." It's like my first gig ever was a paid gig. Got paid not like $100. It was like a good paid gig. And to shoot a short film. And then the next one right after that was also paid. And I got paid to like fly like a 2-seater airplane around the CN Tower. It was like crazy, right? So I was like, wow, this TechnoTutor thing really works. I would just put in everything I want into it and use it. And It was like, holy crap, I'm getting all the results. Anytime I would go through something emotional, I just use TechnoTutor. Anything that time there's something I want, I just use TechnoTutor. And it just kept working out. But this point of purpose kept growing inside of me. And I realized I was convincing myself that I would use all of this to become like freaking Leonardo DiCaprio and be on stage and then tell everybody, this is what we have to do to create a better world. And everybody would just listen and do it. That's total bullshit. And I realized in that moment, as I took apart, well, my purpose and when I nailed down my purpose to be, I was like, where do all the problems come from? So we'll talk about that another time. But after all of that roller coaster of events, it didn't stop there. I wanted to work with the company and I didn't want to just start here. I knew what I was worth. So I wanted to basically partake in a franchise of the company, if you will. And I wanted to be in a more leadership position with my brother. And so I remember the biggest hurdle I was facing was like, I wasn't completely focused yet on that point because I was still focused on my self-interest. Like I just wanted money and all this stuff, right? And so I remember going on a cruise, traveling around Miami and all this stuff, and being at some other events, and then finally coming back around. I still couldn't break through that $10,000 barrier a month. Now I know people might be like, "Oh, $10,000, that's really good," but let's say like the amount of money that comes natural to you. Let's say it's 3,000 or 4,000, whatever it is. Imagine you were working full commission sales, which means you get paid specifically based off your personal merit. And you could not break through $10,000 no matter what you did. It was fucking annoying. It was really frustrating. But I remember talking to Cameron, he explained a couple of key points about who I really am. And he was telling me the sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll actually understand how you work and you'll work with how you work. And that was what we talked about in the last Nasty TV episode when it was way back in the day when it was called the Nighttime Nasty. You would realize that you're a robot and you can use TechnoTutor to program yourself. And I was like, are you fucking serious? But the point is, he explained the points to me about why that is and how it works. And I was like, okay. But I was saying, what if it doesn't work on this money thing? Because money is a thing that people massively struggle with. And I've been struggling with it for years. And let me tell you one thing. Me and my brother collectively has spent over $100,000 at this point trying to develop ourselves and find the ways of changing through mainstream psychology and therapy, EFT, TFT, Reiki, Shadow K, spiritual reconnective healing, emotional code, NLP, access consciousness, life coaches, you name it, we've done it. We tried a lot. For those of you who don't know what half that shit is, don't worry about it. But just consider how little you know, right? We tried a lot of stuff. And a lot of the time I would feel better, but none of it would actually result in me making more money. So I was telling Cameron, what if it doesn't work? And he said, dude, what are you afraid of? And I was like, true, I don't have any. I felt like I was, part of it because, I've been engaging with TechnoTutor for over a year at that point. But I was like, oh, I don't have any stock in this company. Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? If it doesn't work, it doesn't fucking work. And that'll save me money. I don't have to become, part of their company. I don't have to become a distributor, right? It's like, sweet. So yeah, I got nothing to worry about. But if you couldn't break through, let's say $4,000 for 3 years, what number would you be happy with to prove that you can break through? 5,000, 4,500, 4,100. You know what I mean? I was just like, I just want to make like 11,000, maybe even 10,500. That's cool. I don't mind if I work on this point for 30 days, 60 days, and then the next month I make 10,200, right? But it was that month. It didn't take a month. It was that month I tripled my personal best. I made $30,000 that month. And I fucking shit my pants. At that point, I had completely changed, ground up my relationship with my brother. And we had gotten to talking about literally everything. Before, we're consistently going through cycles of fighting and getting totally pissed off with each other, where I can't even be in the same room as him. We're being hotel rooms, and I would just be giving him the silent treatment because I'm just annoyed. I don't even know what it was. I went from that to literally discussing everything with my brother, him becoming my absolute best friend in every way. And I was like, this changed my relationships, even with my mother, right? I was like that resentful, angsty teenager who's kind of a dick. It's like I walked myself out of that. It took some time, and everybody said it was just going to leave with age. It didn't leave with age. I had to specifically take parts apart for that. Same thing with my dad, right? I changed my relationships and I changed my finances, and not in like a little baby way. It was a lot. It was a lot. So the point is, the two things that people struggle with most, isn't it finances and relationships? So imagine having a tool that you could just change your finances, financial situation, relationship situation. And it takes time. We live in a physical reality. It's not just a pill that you pop and it's done. But most people never figure out in their entire lifetime. Now imagine you had that answer and you chose not to share it with people. What kind of person would you be? That's the question I asked myself. And that's when I realized, oh, I need to make the decision now to become part of this company. Now, I know I had said earlier that I had made that decision, but when you get a taste of, I was in Australia at the time. I had bumped around to every sales job that I could think of, funeral and cemetery services to selling gutter protection and solar panels, all this stuff. And I couldn't break through that 10K a month. I was literally on the other side of the world running away from my problems, right? And basically, the weather was beautiful. The environment was beautiful. The people were nice. The money was great. And as soon as I got that taste, it was the decision of principle versus ego. And I was like, I'm just going to stay here for 18 months, ramp up my income, make $1 million, then I'll start. I'm just going to do everything I want, then I'll start. It was the same thing with the acting. I'm just going to rise to the top, then I'll make a difference. But do you know when you're going to die? I remember considering that point, and I was like, holy shit, I'm pretending like I'm going to live forever. That's ego, convincing me to just keep going along this path. So it was that decision when we started working with TechnoTutor. I can confidently say with certainty that I know how to change. Why? Because now I'm in the most rewarding, fruitful relationship in my life, romantic relationship, that I didn't think was possible, that I didn't have with my other two partners, that I wasn't given any examples of in my immediate environment. But now I have that. Me and my brother, we dreamed of maybe working together one day in a business when we're 30 or 40 or something like that. Now we have 4 businesses together. And 3 of them are require little to none of our time. And the only one that we have to focus on is the only one we want to focus on, the one that matters to us, the one that gives us purpose. It's this one. It's TechnoTutor. I've walked people through addiction to pornography, drug usage, through depression. I've supported people to save their relationships. In fact, I wouldn't be with my partner that I am today if it wasn't for these tools. I supported people to sort out their financial situation, to find out who they are and develop purpose in life. It's one thing being able to get some results in your own life, but the proof that I know what I'm doing is that I've shared it with other people and they got results. I got a lot of people that talk a lot of shit, and I love it because it's like my old high school friends will reach out to the people that I've shared TechnoTutor with and be like, why do you listen to him? How is he qualified? I am qualified the same way that an athlete qualifies for the Olympics based on results. If you're looking for some academic credential, we have that in the network. One of our clients, Mitchell Snyder, he has a psychology degree. And he said that what he's learned, and it's not me, I'm not special. I'm just sharing information with people that I've learned, that I've picked up from everything that we do. But he says the information that he learned from me and Kian, my number one business partner and my best friend, my Maylat Charanet, you're my best friend too. That's my partner. What he gathered from us in 4 months was far beyond. And you can ask Mitchell. Mitchell, you can ask him for those of you who know Mitchell Snyder. But what he learned from TechnoTutor and Destiny and everything else that we do in 4 months was way far beyond what he learned in 4 years in a psychology degree. It's funny because I wanted to be a psychologist when I was a kid. I remember my English teacher, I told him I wanted to be a psychologist. That's what I want to go to university for. He said, don't do that. You're not going to make money in that. Right? It's going to be very hard to get a job in that. I was like, oh, I was so obedient. Right? That's how I was programmed as a child. So I went to business school. But here I am. I wound up working with the mind and the human being. And far beyond any impact I thought I could have at that time when I made that decision of wanting to be a psychologist. And the point I want you to consider is, why the fuck would you want an academically acclaimed person to support you in changing? The only reason you would want that is because maybe you just don't know what the word academic means. That point of being qualified the same way that an athlete qualifies for the Olympics based off results. Have you ever looked up the word academic? Here, I'll do it. This is just something to consider, okay? Because I've heard countless stories of people that I end up talking with because they're going through hard times because things aren't easy in this world. And they weren't supported effectively to understand what an emotion is, what a thought is. And they've been to therapy. And it was helpful, but it didn't get them what they wanted. And the point to consider is, if you're looking for academic qualification as the indicator that somebody is qualified to really help you change your life, consider what academic means. For those of you who can see, who are watching, look, I'm not asking you to believe anything I say. The reason why I know how to get results in my life, and I went from making $30,000 a year to $30,000 a month to $30,000 in 24 hours, is because I don't believe in things. I just go with what is here. I look at the collective agreements that we've all decided is the definition of words. And I type in academic and I see not of practical relevance. Huh. And that's something. Don't get me wrong. If I needed an operation, I want a surgeon who has been trained. But the point is, how are you measuring what qualifies somebody to speak about something? Is it because their mind is full of theory? Or their experience is full of practical relevance? So those of you who can't see the definition, academic, by definition, is the second definition if you go to Google, define academic, not of practical relevance, of only theoretical interest. The reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, I'll tell you right now, it's not for the money, because I could have just stayed in Australia for that rather than having to let go of all of that, come back to Canada in the middle of winter to start my life from scratch, be back at $0 coming in. How many of you would go from making $30,000 in their first month of commission sales? I was working like 15, 20 hours a week. And I was getting into the swing of things. I was preparing myself to make 60, 80, $100,000 a month. And if you can't process that, don't blame me. Okay. How many of you would go from even just making $30,000 a month to zero? That requires self-honesty, right? But I think it's a pretty easy answer. I don't have to do this. I don't have to put myself out there and get shit on every single day. But it's worth it. Because every time I do one of these, somebody that reaches out and they tell me, hey, I've been watching your videos and I've been thinking of reaching out for a while. I just been too nervous, and I'm just, I just didn't for whatever reason. But your videos have been really helpful to me, and I appreciate you doing what you do, even though I don't really understand what you do. And we talk, and you can see in their eyes, they light up because it's the first time that anybody's giving them any real support. And a lot of these people, I don't make a penny off of them. But my starting point for anybody who's watching this, who is a client of mine, or who now works with me, and I spend time with you, and I share with you, and I talk with you, my starting point is not just for you to fix your life, because we have a lot of work to do on this planet. Everything that I share with you, use it to fix your life and share it with somebody else. 2021 is the year to prepare the wave of people who are going to be the transitional leaders to supporting everyone to take self-responsibility. It's going to take time. And I mean, maybe we don't know when it's going to happen, but what else are you doing with your life What else are you really doing with your life beyond just trying to survive so that you can have children that you can then teach how to survive? Things are accelerating at a really, really fast pace. And it's going to split people. And you're either going to be completely reliant on government to provide for you, or you will become very wealthy. If you're not the person inside of yourself that you don't feel any confidence, you don't have certainty, maybe you're really judgmental. Maybe all you want to do is shit on what I do. That's cool. But for those of you who can hear me, for those of you who can see that I'm very certain, I want you to realize something. I wasn't always like this. I've wanted to kill myself before. I've been depressed. I've cried puddles into my bed before. It's not pretty. I remember that month that I made $30,000. I remember going through this point of I'm not good enough with TechnoTutor. And I swear I cried out like 20 years of pain. But that's what creates success. That's what creates certainty. That's what creates confidence. It's actually having a process to find out who you are so that if anybody tries to tell you otherwise, it doesn't hurt because you know who you are. If you don't know with 100% certainty who you are, if you don't know with 100% certainty why you're here, why you're doing what you're doing, why you don't have the best relationships, why you aren't absolutely optimistic about the future, even though everything that's going on, let me tell you something. The people that I surround myself with, they had their best year ever financially, emotionally, and holistically in 2020, including myself. It was an absolutely life-changing year. Same thing for my brother. Same thing for Maylat, my partner. Same thing for my best friends, Mitchell, Drake, Jessica, David, Cameron, Avery, you name it. But I hear a lot that people went through some hard times. And I'm not trying to downplay that at all. I understand. But if you're going to keep making the same decisions that got you into that place, then what are we supposed to think? My point is, don't think that I'm special because I'm not. I'm not unique. I'm not different. I developed some abilities when I was young because of the circumstances where I could speak a little bit. But I've watched people who've never spoken before in their fucking lives publicly step up to the plate and develop that ability. And people listen to them more than they listen to me. Because we actually have the tools of change. So, on that note, consider if you aren't 100% certain about who you are, why you're here, and why you're doing what you're doing, then don't waste more time. Reach out. Let's talk. Because I guarantee you, that whatever we end up talking about, I guarantee you that it will be more valuable than any amount of fear or judgment that you have that is keeping you from talking to me. So you can look me up on Facebook, Asif Nazerally, ASIFNAZERALLY. You can send me an email, asif.nazerally@gmail.com. Reach out, let's chat. Because at the end of the day, it's either all of us or none of us. And I would prefer the first one. Well, see you on the next one.